All right, I'm here with my buddy Ty, who is a 6-month-old boxer, and we have his brother, he was adopted with Finn, in the bedroom with Pod, who is a Boston Terrier. In this video, we're going to go over some creative ways that you can exercise your dog inside, and this will be especially helpful for those of us who live in the Midwest. Now, I just sat down with the Guardians. He's bit a couple people, I think out of confusion and frustration. He doesn't seem to be an aggressive dog to me, and he's a puppy. He really shouldn't be at this age. But I sat down with the Guardians to ask them how much exercise he gets, which was one of the first questions I asked my clients, and they said about 20-minute walk a day. Dogs need an hour's worth of exercise a day. Stronger, more virile breeds like pointers or boxers might be closer to 2 hours a day. And also if they're puppies, they need a little bit more exercise. Now, basically, the walk is actually not a very efficient way of exercising your dog because I'll explain what I'm doing here in a second, but he happened to do it on his own. We've been practicing for a minute. But the walk, they're going so much slower than they are. They can run about 35 miles an hour. So when we're walking at 1 mile an hour, they're like, oh my God, what can I, what other, a lot of times they get into trouble. So one hour walk is nowhere near as efficient as 3 20-minute walks. Sprinkled throughout the day, dogs sleep about 17 hours a day on average. So you want to, when they're sleeping, they're charging their batteries up, and then once they're charged, they're ready to go. And if you don't exercise your dog, it can create some other problems: frustration, fear, anxiety, stress. And just like us, if I'm stressed or I'm having a bad day, I'm going to be more reactive, penthouse, than I would be if I'm in a calm and balanced state of mind. So one of the ways I like to exercise a dog is I pull out a laser. Now for some dogs, this is not healthy. If your dog gets manic and really freaking out, that's not a healthy experience for your dog. Now that will get your dog excited, not calm. So you don't want to do a laser if your dog gets too manic or if you're having somebody about to show up, because that's going to ramp them up. But if you can have your dog, I have a woman that watches my dogs when I'm in California fixing dogs there, and she sits in my window and has the dogs running laps around the backyard chasing a little laser dot. So that's a nice way to do it. Now dogs have what's called a distended stomach. It hangs like a pendulum, and if it's full, it can twist or pressurize or flip up and pressurize, and it can be fatal. So your dog should never actually exercise with food in their belly. You want to be about 90 minutes or more after exercise before you exercise your dog. So walks are not bad. I'm not saying walks are bad. It's just not the most efficient way. If you want to exercise your dog, sometimes getting a doggy backpack, which is basically a harness with pockets on both sides, and you can put 2 bottles of water on each side. Now your dog is carrying more weight. It makes the walk more efficient. Basically, and before I show you this, what I usually recommend my Guardians do is something called an exercise journal. Get a spiral notebook and just write the date at the top. Now we have 3 dogs in this house. So I'd write the date at the top, and then I would create a column for each dog. Finn, Ty, and Pod. And then on the left, let's say we take him for a 20-minute walk in the morning. That's great. That's a great way to start. So you take him for a 20-minute walk, write down the time or how long you walked for. And then let's say 2 hours later, they get a little bit mischievous, they bark. Well, you shouldn't interpret that your dog is being mean, or out getting in trouble. That should be your way of your dog's you should interpret that as your dog saying, my dog is saying he needs some exercise. Either you're gonna exercise me, human, or I'm gonna exercise myself. And a lot of times we do that by chewing things, being destructive, and all the rest of that. So the idea is to sprinkle these out. I would really suggest you probably start out about every 3 hours to begin with. So you might, like, if you're going to do the laser, let's say I stand in the middle of the house, and let's say this hallway goes really far both ways. I might take the laser, run it this way, the dog chases there, then I run it this way, the dog chases there, then I run it this way, dog chases there, and then I would come back here, and that would call that 1. And then I would do this circuit and with an empty stomach the first time until the dog just plops down and says, I'm not chasing that red dot anymore. Now we know the maximum number. I would also do the same thing for what I'm going to show you with the stairs. I call this a doggy stairmaster. And so you want to do it the first time with an empty stomach without the other dogs present until they just stop doing it, and you count so you know their maximum number. Sit. That's a little passive training, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit in the session, but off camera. Okay, so basically what you do is you write down the time and what the exercise was and the quantity or the frequency or the length. And then you put down the time that they eat. Anytime that they start barking or getting really in trouble or in bad dog is what we call it. I don't interpret it bad. It's usually we're not doing a good job of putting the dog in position to succeed. So any of those things that happen, you write those things down. And then at the end of the day, we give each dog a letter grade, A through F. And if the dog got anything below an A, then the next day we add a couple repetitions to the exercise, or we add a whole extra set of exercises. Now, let's say that this up, down, and the stairs, this doggy stairmaster, let's say that he does 50 before he says, I'm done. This is probably only going to take about 7 to 10 minutes, so it's a lot faster than a walk. But because he's in pursuit mode, he's really letting it loose. Fetch is also a wonderful way to burn your energy. I do what I call dog skiing, which you can't do on a day like today because it snowed here in Nebraska. But I put my dog on a harness and I put rollerblades on it and have my dogs pull me from Santa Monica to Venice and back, or from Pacific to Center and back. And the dogs are wiped out because they get to pull, and they're running. They can pull as much as they want. And then when they come home, I can do 2 miles in 20 minutes, and they're exhausted. Okay, so you don't want to do it to completion every time. What you want to do it is, let's say 50 times is the maximum number of up-downs he'll do. So maybe when we're doing exercising, we want to give him maybe a third or 50% of his maximum. So if it's 50, we might start out with 25 and see how he does. So we might do 25 3 times a day. We might do the laser 3 times a day. We might do fetch 3 times a day. So now we can get this every 3 hours. And the Guardians are over here laughing because they're the sounds that Pod is making back there. They're not very happy. But when he's bitten, I think it's because he had too much energy and a lot of excitement was going on. That's when we make mistakes. So I asked the Guardians to put them away. They haven't met me yet, and that's why they're protesting. Okay, so you assign a letter grade at the end of the day, and if it's anything less than an A, the next day you get a couple more repetitions, a couple more exercises, whatever it is, and then eventually you'll find an A+ day. Now, Finn might need less exercise than Ty, or vice versa, or Pod might need a different. They don't have to be the same, just because they're siblings. We're all different. And once we find that what we need, then that's then we've kind of got the roadmap to success for the dog in terms of their daily exercise. Like I said, for him, an hour would be the bare minimum, but he probably needs closer to 2 hours worth of exercise in 10 or 15 minutes, little segments. Okay, so what I do for the Doggy Stairmaster, I like using fun command words because dogs are the only animal on the planet that can read a human facial expression. So if I want my dog to lay down and I say crash, my dog flops down, and most people laugh, and my dog feels good because it made people laugh. So for the dogs, I came up with the words of lobby, meaning to go downstairs, and penthouse, meaning to come upstairs. We have a single flight of stairs. This is better than a bend, but a bend will work, it's just not as efficient. So once I start throwing, the Guardian's going to kind of come over here so you can kind of see, once I start throwing. And then so basically what I do is Ty. So I let him sniff that I have a high value treat. And then you can come over here and let's watch him run down and just have some interesting camera work. So I throw it down there. Whenever he licks it up is when I would say the word lobby. And then I ask him to come back up, which he does on his own. I ask for a sit, penthouse, just by holding it waiting. Then I throw it back down. Lobby. Now there's a little gap down there. A couple treats fell in, but I think he actually was able to get them. Penthouse. Now I asked him to sit the first couple times because sitting is a more kind of subordinate position. It's almost a way of saying please or thank you at times. And then just saying, look, when you come up, I want you to sit down. That's great practice for the next time you want him to sit when there's something else that's going on. So again, you're going to throw these up and down until the dog just decides, I'm not going down to get these anymore. Lobby. Penthouse. And so again, if it's 50, I'm guessing he probably will be more than 50. But find out what the maximum number of each exercise is. Start out with half, but back it up or forward. Now don't overdo it as well. Just like us, if I'm overtired, then I'm also going to be cranky. So you need to find that butter zone. And so, but every time your dog barks or gets growly or jumps the fence or whatever, ask yourself, how long has this been? Well, if we're keeping the exercise journal, we don't have to ask ourselves. We go down and we look and we know exactly the minutes. So put it on the table right here by the front so you can write it down and make sure everybody's writing that down. Maybe assign a chore so each person is doing it a couple times a day so not one person is taxed with doing anything. And keep the exercise journal for a month. And after about 2, 3, or 4 weeks, you'll start seeing, kind of dialing it into what you need. Then you don't need to do it. But this way, if he does have a barking episode or he jumps the fence and nips somebody, we look at the exercise journal and we're like, wow, it's been over 5 hours since he got exercise. That's our fault, not his fault. All right, let's do that one more time, buddy. You ready? Lobby. Let's get you to turn around so America can see you. Sit. Penthouse. Well, this is Ty. I'm David, and these are some tips and tricks you can use to exercise your dog in a creative way.